each one of you to the celebration of Project Self first annual event. What a memorable day to cherish for a lifetime due to the efforts of a great team. Theme of the day is holistic wellness. We shall begin with a universal prayer. सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु
सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु
सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु
सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु
सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु
सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु
सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु. May there
Thank you, Pavitra. Namaste, everybody. When Naren asked us, Ramakrishna Paramhans, that I want to see God, have you seen Ramakrishna Paramhans? Eyes into eye replied, yes, I have seen God the way I am seeing you. Naren asked further, can you show me God? Ramakrishna Paramhans very convincingly said, certainly, I can show you, I can send God to your place, give me your address. Naren wrote his address and handed it over to Ramakrishna Paramhans. The moment Ramakrishna Paramhans read the address, smilingly he replied, it is your home's address. Give me your address. I'll send God to your address. And that day that Naren realized there is a difference between address of the self and address of your home. And from that day, the journey of Swami Vivekananda started. Project Self is a journey from without to within. It is a non-government organization made up by the professionals, ordinary professionals who have ordinary problems like all of us have, committed to bring a positive change in the life of self and surroundings. This particular annual event is basically organized understanding the concept that life needs a holistic wellness. It's not moving probably. Life needs a holistic wellness. And when we say holistic wellness, this holistic wellness is the wellness of mind, wellness is body, and wellness of spirit. We try and project self to identify basic concepts from our scriptures and reinvent them in modern living so that we all can connect and bring a positive difference. Because since last 5,000 years, there have been only three journeys, three struggles the man has gone through. First, the struggle of man versus nature, Adi Davik struggle. Second, the struggle of man versus man between two people. Second, the struggle of man versus man, the struggle between two people. Third is the struggle of man versus within. So many traumas, so many difficulties we face with ourselves. Adhyatmic struggles. But the moment we come out of this adhyatmic struggle, later two struggles become very easy. Struggle with man versus man or struggle with man versus nature. So this particular event focuses on the same. When Princess Diana wrote that being princess is not everything, world realized that thing, that we all at the peak of name fame, when she said being princess is not everything, she was trying to reflect on a basic concept that man is a multi-dimensional being. Steve Jobs, one of the tycoons, one of the icons of the youth today, in last years of his writing, he used to say that I have read so many books in my lifetime. I have learned so many things in my life. I have earned enough. But one book that I could not read is the book of healthy living. His life was a message for everybody that the health and our hobbies, family, really should be given priority in life along with other priorities. When Steve Jobs died, autobiography of a yogi was given to everybody. His death was also a message that it is not only the health we need to focus upon, it's our mental, spiritual, intellectual health that makes us complete happy. That conveys the journey of Sat Chit Anand, being permanent happy. And that's why these are the koshas that we'll be discussing today whole day. Physical, Annamay Kosh, Pranmay Kosh, Manomay Kosh, Vigyanmay Kosh, and Anandmay Kosh are the koshas we'll be discussing today. If to take a loose simile to make us very well understand, when we say physical, Annamay Kosha, whatever we eat is the Annamay Kosha, whatever you can see me speaking, our body, flesh and bone, that whatever we eat, like a vehicle in car, like a car, then the fuel in that car is what we eat is Annamay Kosh. When that fuel gets burned, car gets energy, the momentum, it's called Pranamay Kosha, the energy that keeps us moving. We feel connected with each other because we feel some similarity between our vibrations. We feel connect, that is Pranamay Kosha, that keeps us moving. But in that car we have accelerator and brake, that is, you can compare it with Manomay Kosha. Rigved says, Jaisa Anna hota hai, vaisa man hota hai. Our man is Annamay. And then is the intellect, what you call wisdom, or Vigyanmay Kosh is the steering of a car. Direction, there is a difference between being Obama and being Osama. And the difference is the direction we take in our life. And when the car is on the right direction, all gears and all functions are going properly, then only the driver can feel that bliss, what you call as Anandmay Kosh. So throughout the day, we'll be discussing these koshas and we'll be going to the journey from involution to evolution. As our scriptures, Taitri Upanishad, which lays down the foundation of 5 koshas from 2 states, the state of being to the state of we really want to be. First is Annamay Kosha, that is only physical being. Then is Pranamay Kosha, Manomay Kosha, Vigyanmay Kosha, and Anandmay Kosha. Today, one after another, we'll be having various sessions. We'll be talking about these koshas. Our life is full of illusions. We have many difficulties in physical illusion, spiritual illusion, and mental illusion. Whole day, array of speakers will help us to clear these illusions into illumination so that we all can be uplifted to a greater spiritual, mental, and physical realms. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would like to invite Pavitra for further proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Vikrantji, for a delightful introduction of Project Self. Project Self is very honored and privileged to invite Sri Rajiv Malhotra to grace the occasion and give the opening speech. Our Honorable Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi ji says, quote, Rajiv ji deserves sincere appreciation for glorifying our priceless heritage and clearing the misinterpretation about it, unquote. Rajiv Malhotra ji is an internationally known researcher, writer, speaker, and public intellectual on current affairs as they relate to civilizations, cross-cultural encounters, religion, and science. He studied physics and computer science and served in multiple careers, including software development executive, Fortune 100 senior corporate executive, strategic consultant, and successful entrepreneur in the information technology and media industries. At the peak of his career, when he owned 20 companies in several countries, he took early retirement at age 44 to pursue philanthropy, research, and public service. He established Infinity Foundation for this purpose in 1994. Rajiv ji has conducted original research in a variety of fields and has influenced many other thinkers in India and the West. He has disrupted the mainstream thought process among academic and non-academic intellectuals alike by providing fresh, provocative position on dharma and on India. Some of the focal points of his work are interpretation of dharma for the current times, comparative religion, globalization, and India's contribution to the world. Rajiv ji's books, like The Battle of Sanskrit, Being Different, Indra's Net, Breaking India, etc., are highly appreciated and celebrated books of profound truths and revelations in Indology. Francis Clooney, Society of Jesus and Parkman Professor of Divinity, Harvard University, says the following on Rajiv ji's book, Being Different. Quote, being different is here a necessary virtue, essential to understanding our neighbors and ourselves. Much reflection and many a good argument should follow upon Malhotra's unique achievement, unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together to one of the most eminent personalities of the world for spreading and daring to defend and protect the profound truths of Vedic heritage and Indian heritage. Welcome, Sri Rajiv Malhotra ji.
Hello? Hello? Yeah, okay. I'm indeed honored to be invited here. This is my first time in your annual event. I did not know much about it, and I'm glad I learned about it. I have a short time allocated to give you a brief introduction to the subject dharma and wellness, which is actually such a large subject that it's going to take you your whole day. In a few minutes, I'm not going to talk to you about koshas and things like that, because you'll hear that during the day. So I just want to focus a little bit on one or two points about this issue of dharma and wellness. You know, the first question to ask is whose wellness? Whose wellness? And then you have the different levels of being, which are the koshas, which were described briefly. And so there is wellness at every level. The Western medicine looks at, your physical body and do a lot of diagnostics, and that's wonderful. A lot of great achievements have been made. And then mental health professionals, which are in their own domain, they are looking at another level. Psychologists looking at emotional health and things like that. Now, I have a feeling that one of the most distinct contributions our culture brings to this model of wellness is the level of pran. Because pran is not understood. Pran does not fit and does not belong in the Western science framework. So it is incorrectly translated as breathing or as some kind of energy, as if it's like electricity or something, that's pran. So if it were electricity, then mechanical devices would be channeling pran, and your electric utility would also be putting a pran meter in your house, how much pran you're buying, and they'd be selling you pran and all of that stuff. But it's not so mechanical. Nor is it breathing, although it's correlated with breathing. It's not breathing, it's correlated with breathing, you see. So the idea of how things can be, an entity can be a wide spectrum, at a wide spectrum, from physical to less physical to more subtle to more subtle to more subtle. And they are all interconnected, so by intervening one of them, you can affect the rest. So by intervening breathing, you can affect the pran. But that doesn't mean that pran is nothing but collapsed as breathing, which is what often is mistranslated. So this is a non-translatable. Pran is a non-translatable. You should just call it pran and not introduce it as anything else. You don't need to apologize if people don't understand. It's not your fault. It's their limitation, and they have to understand. So this science of pran, I think, is a very high potential area of research. What is it? How do you evaluate it? How do you measure it? We haven't rediscovered what the rishis have discovered, and this is the one common thing you'll find in Tantra, you'll find in Raj Yoga, you'll find in everything. Patanjali, all the different systems. The idea of pran is there very explicitly or implicitly, it's there. Now, as you get more and more subtle in the level of being that you are thinking about in terms of wellness, as you get more and more subtle, from physical down to more subtle, it's less and less understandable by physics, because you're dealing with levels of existence which are subtler than matter as physics determines, physics decides, physics explains. It becomes inconceivable in some ways. And you have strange phenomena like non-locality, non-local causation. These are ideas in quantum physics, where things seem to be weird and defy the laws that we intuitively expect, the world to function, and physics expects the world to function in a certain way. And it is at that level that you can understand, that you can begin to try and make sense of things like how a guru has done Shaktipat on someone. What is Shaktipat? It is not transmission of atoms and molecules and energy in a physical sense, but something has happened and transforms another person. How Jyotish works. These are not independent and irrelevant in the idea of wellness when you try to understand wellness at a very deep level. And also at this very deep level, there is interconnectivity. The interconnectivity of people with each other, interconnectivity of living beings with each other. So you may think of a term, pranic internet, a kind of a pranic internet. At a certain level of existence, there is interconnectivity and influence that things have, which defy the laws of physics. Because according to physics, it could not happen so far away, or it could not have happened with walls coming in between. And when we talk about, the practices we are given to avoid certain practices. We're told that a container, a vessel, a utensil, which has been contaminated in a certain way, is not used for sattvic cleaning. Now you can wash it, you can put chemicals, you can do all the stuff, and you can put it into tests and find that there is no atom, not a single atom or molecule of the contaminant in it. But a good sadhu, a good rishi, a good yogi will say, I do not want to use that. There's a certain vibrational contamination. So this idea of vibrational contamination is beyond what physics has discovered. So I'm more interested in that level of what I call submatter physics, submatter reality. That's my area of research. Now this is becoming fashionable also. We have the Deepak Chopra phenomena, which is not just one man. Actually, he's a follower of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Many of you may not know. He was an assistant to Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and that's where he learned all these things. And so was Sri Ravi Shankar, an assistant to, they were two of the closest persons near Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and they learned these things there. But Deepak Chopra, after learning these things, when going out teaching on his own, reformulated a vocabulary which was very good for Westerners to understand. So this takes me to the next issue, and then I will stop because you have a very busy schedule today, and I have a plane to catch. This business of making this very subtle submatter reality, the science of that, making it accessible to the world is a double-edged sword. It has the benefit that more people can understand it. The problem is that you disconnect it from its Vedic roots. The vocabulary of the Vedic roots is gone when you translate pran as breathing or as energy, when you translate shakti as energy and things like that. When you start doing these translations in order to sell more books or become more popular, which is a very attractive thing, the ego is going to be pulled in that direction. What you are doing is disconnecting it from the roots. And this thing goes into free form, free floating. It's a free ball, like in soccer. It's just free. Anybody can kick it around whichever way they want. And so this creates a whole new opportunistic field of healing, mind, body, spiritual, where the rigor and the vocabulary and the framework of the Vedic rishis is not there anymore. It's gone. And some people would say it's also irrelevant, it's coming in the way, it's backward, who cares, and so on. So it becomes fashionable for various reasons to distance oneself from that real foundation. And then this begins to get reformulated, repackaged in the Western scientific model, because that is what the FDA requires to prove your patent, or the insurance company to cover you, or to sell more books, or to get invited to give talks, and so on. So what has happened as a process, as a result of this process, is the dissolution or the disconnect from the tradition and a repackaging into a new Western framework. This has happened. And this is a very dangerous thing. I call it digestion, meaning our tradition has become digested into somebody else's civilization. Now you may say we win because it's spread, but that's like a goat who's been eaten by a tiger and he's no longer there. He's disappeared, except a lot of what was wasted has been excreted and dumped. And this foolish goat, his family might praise that, now the goat is part of the tiger because he's running around, wow, what a goat. So this digestion of a civilization by a dominant predator civilization happened many times. What is now called pagan were European pre-Christian traditions, similar to Vedic in many ways. Many such traditions in Africa, many such traditions among the Native Americans. In fact, before Christianity and Islam, much of the world had similarities to our tradition. These got digested. They disappeared. A few of their artifacts remain, like the Christmas tree comes from the pagans, like Easter holiday, like Halloween, all of these kind of things. But their ideology, their deities are all gone. So one day, if you are the type of person who says the more we get digested, the more we spread, then one day Diwali may become like Halloween. There'll be some kind of exotic festival where somebody comes up like Hanuman and does a Hanuman dance, and Sita does a Sita belly dance, and this kind of trivialization of the symbols and catching a little bit of story from here and there and repackaging it in whatever fun way, calling it mythology. This is where we are headed. So that's the result of being digested. And since you are doing excellent work in the field of wellness and the Vedic knowledge system, the only point I want to make is do not let that get disconnected from the Vedic tradition, and do not feel proud when some of you are doing very well by helping get it digested. It may be very good for the person, he may make a lot of money, but like anybody selling out his culture, what matters is not just what's good for him, but also the long-term perspective. So I would urge a couple of things. Keep the vocabulary intact. The vocabulary of our tradition, do not translate those words. The koshas, just use those words. Let others have to come and learn what they mean. Don't say, I'll make it simple for you. Just say, that's what it is. You may have to practice. You may need sadhana. We will help you. But that's what it is, and there's nothing equivalent in the Western model, so it is non-translatable. Do that, and focus on the sadhana aspect. It is not just clinical. It is not just material. It is not just something where you can feel better, get health problems solved, and so on. The mantra aspect and the whole sadhana aspect is exceedingly important. The effect of rituals on the pran needs to be studied. We have to study it. Many years ago, when my foundation was giving different grants and then we were analyzing to see what works or not, we gave a grant to a project on the medical effects of prayer. This was done by Institute of Noetic Sciences, and they had 3 places. One was Duke University, one was Sai Baba Hospital in, and there was a third place, I've forgotten. In these 3 places, they decided they'll take a number of heart surgeries, and they will have prayers done, and then they'll compare the results with the other results of the control group. And so I don't remember the details, but they found that there was a significant improvement when people had prayer. And this prayer, what they call prayer, they brought in people, in different cases, they brought in people from, so there was a Hindu doing ritual and puja, and there was another kind of prayer and so on. They did not break it down into what was the effect from each religion. They didn't want to do that. They wanted to lump it all together. So this is how our tradition was used to validate something. Then they had to go to the next stage of validation, for which huge money was available. And the Templeton Foundation was wanting to give big money. So sitting in that meeting, a new revelation, I heard a new thing. Sir John Templeton was the senior, who's no more. He died in his 90s. His son, also called John Templeton, was the successor at that time. So this John Templeton, a born-again Christian, very, very solid Christian, wants them to define what exactly do you mean by prayer. So these guys, who were the technical people, who had failed to distinguish between the processes that they are carrying out, because they lumped everything as prayer, found themselves not able to kind of clarify that. So then he made the rules that we will do this test, we will fund it, but it will be Christian prayer. That is what he said. Now this is very sad, because we went through initially making a contribution, validating it, then we got taken out of it, and then it got repackaged as something else. I can give you many such examples. Herb Benson at Harvard, who learned transcendental meditation, did some experiments on its effects, medical effects. A famous guy at Harvard, now he's 90s, maybe, I think he's still alive or not, I don't know, but he's in his 90s. Then he came up, he said, I can produce the same effect, but he changed the vocabulary. He called it the relaxation response. The relaxation response. And he said, remove the mantra and put another word. He had his own kind of similar word, similar vibrational word he put in. So he tried one thing at a time to remove the whole Vedic link. And then, while his first few papers were co-authored by transcendental meditation researchers, co-authored with them, which are 71 onwards, a few papers, which I have copies of. After that, he denied having anything to do with it, because it would be good for his practice to show that it's his original research, original discovery. So I can give you many such examples where our tradition gets digested. And it is not for the betterment of humanity, because a tree, you enjoy its fruits, but you should not cut off the roots. If a fool will think that he has enough harvest, this tree has given so much harvest, we don't need anything else. So we pluck the fruits and run. But a wise man knows that if I nurture the roots, I'll get more harvests. So keep that in mind. Your wellness program must nurture the Vedic roots. And you must then go back, encourage future harvests. The knowledge we have today of this wellness science from our tradition is not final. You can develop more using that framework, using the basic concepts, the foundation. You can develop more knowledge, which is also Vedic. And that's what you should do. So that means take Western empirical medical science, digest that into the Vedic rather than the other way around. Take the knowledge from the new equipment, the MRIs, all of these things, what they are discovering, what the whole new science of, glucose and whatnot, and the cardiac system, and all the different physiologies, what they're telling us, and put it back into our framework. You enrich our framework. This framework has a lot of potential. It should not be considered just tradition and for chauvinism and for nostalgia and for identity. That is not true. It is actually a scientific framework, and you are the guys who are going to take it forward. Thank you very much for listening.